Hello, and welcome as we continue this week's journey toward the second Sunday after Pentecost, June the 6th, 2021. And today we will be looking at Psalm number 130. So first, let me read for you the psalm and then share some of the gatherings, some of the reflections that I have gathered to share with you. Wow, is this something I should start over? So, Psalm number 130. Out of the depths I cry to you, O Lord. O Lord, hear my voice. Let your ears be attentive to the voice of my supplication. If you were to keep watch over sins, O Lord, who could stand? Yet with you is forgiveness, in order that you may be feared. I wait for you, O Lord, my soul waits. In your word is my hope. My soul waits for the Lord, more than those who keep watch for the morning. More than those who keep watch for the morning. O Israel, wait for the Lord. For with the Lord there is steadfast love. With the Lord there is plenteous redemption. For the Lord shall redeem Israel from all their sins. Some psalms express deep sorrow for sin, and that's called a lament. And the psalms ask God for help and for forgiveness. Psalm number 130 encourages passionate prayer to God in verse 1. And then names God as the source of forgiveness for those who wait for the Lord in verses 4 through 6. The structure of the psalm really falls into four two-line sections. An appeal for Yahweh's attention in verses 1 and 2, trust in Yahweh's desire to forgive in verses 3 and 4, hopeful expectation, verses 5 and 6, and then address to the community in verses 7 and 8. In the chapel of the Hadassah Hospital in Jerusalem, I'm not real good with Hebrew, beneath a set of beautiful stained glass windows, there's a sunken floor. And in the middle of that floor is a pulpit. That's unusual for we Western Hemisphere Christians, since we generally elevate the pulpit. And when asked about this architectural feature, a hospital representative explained, the floor beneath the windows was made this way because we believe all prayer should be offered out of the depths. And the Hebrew word for depths only appears in one other psalm besides 130, and that psalm is number 69. And there it appears in verse 2 and again in verse 14. The word depths has a metaphorical nature that allows it to convey a great deal of emotion, while at the same time being non-specific enough that we contemporary readers can claim this classic form of address to God as our own. We can use it for ourselves. The psalm then moves to a poetic affirmation of God's readiness to forgive. And that gets couched in the form of a rhetorical question in verse 3. If you were to keep watch over sins, O Lord, who could stand? There's a sense that the church in North America today seems to have largely lost its appreciation for lament, for crying out to God. Lament is a form of speech that allows the worshiper to complain about injustice and to call on God to hear the cries of those who suffer. Lament is offered to one in a covenant relationship. And it is also a word of praise. That sounds weird, huh? Crying out to God in complaint is a word of praise? Well, it is with a lament, because a lament gives evidence of faith worked out of the middle of hardship and hurt and loss. Who would continue to cry out to a God who has not proven without any shade of doubt that God will respond? That is crying out of the depths, knowing with confidence that God will respond. In the Hebrew literature, the rhetorical question is an expression of confidence. Verse 4 gives that foundation for confidence. Yet with you is forgiveness. The second half of verse 4, the translation may read that you may be revered. A little bit better than feared for we in the Western Hemisphere. Verses 5 through 6 express an eager anticipation for God's response, because the prayer, the one who is crying out of the depths, is ready and knows that God will rescue and forgive, and they anxiously anticipate that happening. Then the psalm concludes with encouragement for the entire community to come to God, whom they will find to be loving and gracious, offering forgiveness. There is in verses 7 and 8 a sense of a national sin, rather than just a bunch of individuals who have sinned. So these concluding verses are a call for the whole nation to recognize their failure to be God's people. Verse 7 teaches us that with the Lord there is steadfast love. And this is a reminder that God will keep God's promises, God's half of the covenant agreement, even when people do not. In this case, the promise is that God will rescue Israel out of self-inflicted wounds, wounds which come out of their own sinfulness. Perhaps the challenge for we who live in this Western Hemisphere and in these United States of America is for us to think about how this psalm speaks to us as individuals, certainly, but also how does it speak to us as a nation? Are we keeping our side of the agreement, the covenant with God? So something to ponder as we continue our journey toward the second Sunday after Pentecost, June 6th, 2021. I hope you are having a great day. Take care. God bless.